One form of communication that I think is often overlooked in relationships, both romantic and platonic, and honestly, even business relationships, is boundary setting. And when I would hear boundary setting in the past, I had some vague sense of setting boundaries. That's the best way I can describe it. I don't think I really knew what a boundary was or even how to set one. I just found myself getting overwhelmed to the point of usually setting a boundary on accident. Um, and so one day I was talking to a life coach and I was going over a situation in which I had ended up eventually accidentally setting a boundary. I had a roommate that was just bugging me over and over again, and he'd start a conversation the same way every time, and I'd respond the same way every time. And one day he got mad at me for responding that way, and I just outright said, "Look, if you say this to me, I will say this back to you, no matter what, just every single time." And I didn't realize that that's what boundary setting looks like. And hopefully, if you're doing it right, it's in less of a confrontational position or situation. So, what does boundary setting look like, and how do you set boundaries? Boundary setting looks like if then statements. So, the example there was, if you tell me you're excited to go to Lake Michigan, then I will tell you I'm excited too and can't wait for my sunburns to heal. We'll go as soon as my sunburns heal. What can you do with this information? It's something you can meditate on from time to time, that you can ask yourself, are there any situations in my life where I feel I'm being pushed to give the same response over and over again, or that I feel like I'm being pushed in a way that makes it more and more difficult for me to act in service of my values because of my emotional triggers that are going off in any given situation, whether it be the way your boss is talking to you, the way your boss is asking you a specific question, the way your spouse is talking to you or asking questions, or maybe asking the same question on repeat. All of these things that may be emotional triggers are good signals that there is a boundary that maybe needs to be put in place. If you ask me what's wrong and I say nothing, and you ask me what's wrong a second time, then I will not talk until the topic is changed. This might be a very difficult boundary to place, but one that might be very necessary for you and your relationships, whether they be with friends, partners, as it may be very difficult for you to want to talk about what is wrong. And in order for them to respect the boundary of not pushing you to talk about that, you've got to place it. You've got to put it in place. You have to have that difficult, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, difficult conversation where you say, if you say this, and I say this, and then you say this, then here's my boundary. If you don't have that conversation, you can't assume in good faith that they know that boundary is there. Just because your actions and your emotions are signaling that boundary needs to be there, everything going on in this situation is signaling that boundary needs to be there. At the end of the day, it becomes our responsibility to recognize that boundary and set it ourselves. And that's something that can be extremely difficult to communicate for a plethora of reasons. If this video was helpful, give it a like, subscribe, share, comment down below anything you have to say about this video, about boundary setting, examples of boundaries you've had to set in your life or have accidentally set in your life, and what you think about boundary setting in general. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.